Hello there, you're tuning into Nightline with me, Azaria Tagaya. The top stories. E-hailing drivers without PSV license given 3 months reprieve. And toll rate hike imminent if highways remain under concessionaire, says Lim Guan Eng. Good morning. The Cabinet at its meeting agreed to allow unlicensed e-hailing drivers to operate for another 3 months from Friday. This would allow more time for drivers to apply for passenger service vehicle PSV licenses. In making this announcement, Transport Minister Anthony Loke Siu Fook said enforcement will still be ongoing in the 3 months, but unlicensed e-hailing drivers would be let off with warnings and a final reminder. He said the extension was granted as many drivers were still in the midst of settling their documentation to comply with the new regulations.
As I said, we will monitor from time to time, and itu yang kita tahu pun ada syarikat-syarikat cuba macam-macam hela. All these are just try to push the government to a corner and to try to force the government to retract and U-turn on our regulation. We know that these are all strategy employed by certain companies. We know that. But as I said, I have made this announcement today. Cabinet has deliberated the issue, and we have made this announcement and we make this decision. So there is no reason why these companies have to surge the prices.
Loke said the decision was a soft landing approach towards regulating the e-hailing industry. Effective July 12th last year, the Transport Ministry began regulating e-hailing services in the country. E-hailing drivers were given a year's grace period to apply for a PSV license, which is also a requirement for taxi drivers.
So we'll try our best to really comply with the regulation. So, but I think in every implementation, very importantly, people, process, and the system must be in place. So once the process is in place and the system now is almost ready, all of us has already modified our system to comply with the regulation.
I think a lot of drivers, they fall under because exam belum lepas lagi. Exam is a very short period. Okay, the PSV part is 6 hours training lah. So a lot of them already done the 6 hours training. They're waiting for the exam. Okay, so this should not affect much lah. And it's a good thing that the extension 3 months.
So everybody was like happy lah. We just see how within these 3 months macam mana. Tapi kita dah prepare. So kita ada collaboration juga.
Meanwhile, Taxi Drivers Group, Gabungan Taxis Malaysia, GTSM, want the government to remain firm in enforcing the PSV license regulation on e-hailing drivers. Its president, Kamarudin Muhammad Hussein, said the ministry should not compromise on the matter and U-turn on their decision. Kamarudin also demanded e-hailing companies to respect the government's decision to enforce the regulation and said that breaking these laws was akin to violating the sovereignty of the rule of law in the country. The toll rates at 3 highways and the Smart Tunnel are expected to rise if they continue to be managed by concessionaire Gamuda Berhad. Finance Minister Lim Guan Eng said rate hikes can only be avoided if the government proceeds with its plan to take over these tolled roads. The 3 highways are the Damansara Puchong Expressway LDP, Shah Alam Expressway Kesas and Sprint. Speaking in an exclusive interview with TV3, Lim reiterated his confidence over the proposed issuance of 6.2 billion ringgit bond and introduction of congestion fees for the matter. He said the move is more practical than paying 18 billion ringgit in compensation to compel the concessionaires to stop imposing toll charges.
Seringkali kalau kita lihat kerajaan lama, apabila mereka nak bekukan itu tol, mereka akan bayar pampasan dalam bentuk melanjutkan tempoh konsesi kerana tak ada wang. Kita tidak benarkan ini berlaku. Konsesi akan tamat pada waktu yang ditetapkan dalam kontrak. Ini bermakna bila ia tamat, Ada yang tamat 9 tahun, ada yang tamat yang paling lama 23 tahun. Bila ia tamat, sekiranya kita masih jadi kerajaan, Pakatan Harapan akan pastikan tol masa itu tak dikutip. Tetapi sekiranya kena kutip pun, hanya kos operasi dan penyelenggaraan. Ini kos nominal saja. Tapi masa itu saya yakin keadaan kewangan, keadaan fiskal akan bertambah baik dan kita mampu untuk tanggung kos operasi dari sumber dalaman kerajaan. So itu akhirnya memenuhi hasrat untuk masukkan tol. Kita bukan macam BN, dia tol selama-lamanya. Kita bukan macam dulu, dia tol selama-lamanya. Untuk kerajaan ini kita menuju ke arah pemasukan tol.
It is understood that toll rates at LDP, Sprint, Kesas and Smart Tunnel will increase to between RM2.50 and RM7 until 2030. Lim described the proposed takeover of these tolled roads as a win-win solution because the government could save at least RM5.3 billion in compensation. He also said motorists could enjoy savings of RM180 million annually with a 30% discount outside the peak period and a free ride during off-peak hours. And on another issue, Lim said a total of RM925.1 million of 1MDB related money has been returned to the government to date. Lim in a statement said the funds recovered were in various currencies of different denominations. Lim said RM805.8 million of the funds were returned from the United States, of which RM567.8 million were from the Park Lane Hotel, Manhattan, and RM238 million from Red Granite Pictures. He added that RM92.3 million of the funds recovered were from Singapore, and RM27 million were recovered locally, of which RM6.1 million were from the 1MDB Foundation and RM20.9 million from the company itself. Lim said this was the result of the efforts made by the authorities with the cooperation of foreign authorities. He said efforts to recover the funds will continue to repay 1MDB's debts, amounting to RM51 billion. The amount included future interest payments guaranteed by the federal government. The Pulau Pinang government has given its assurance that the welfare of fishermen would not be marginalised when the Penang South Reclamation Project PSR in the southern waters of the island is implemented. Chief Minister Chow Kon Yeow said fishermen could still go to sea when the project is carried out, and the fishermen and their families would be given employment opportunities in the project. Speaking in a press conference on Friday, Chow said Pulau Pinang Fishermen's Association had also submitted a proposal paper on several claims for consideration by the state government, which included providing modern transformation boats to skippers, priority for low-cost house purchase for crew members, and the construction of a proper jetty. He said the state government would study all claims apart from holding negotiations with the parties concerned.
With the fishermen to discuss ex gratia and other matters. For the information of the media, a task force, a Nelayan task force, had already been in place since several years ago.
Asked on the statement of the Prime Minister, Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad, that the government would be conducting studies on allegations by several parties on the PSR project feared to be affecting the livelihood of fishermen and the environment, Chow said the state government was prepared to brief any parties, including the Prime Minister, on the project. The Malaysian Maritime Enforcement Agency MMEA has detained 21 Vietnamese fishermen and seized 2 boats for encroaching and carrying out illegal fishing in Malaysian waters last Tuesday. Acting Kelantan MMEA Director, Maritime Commander Ismail Hamzah, in a press conference on Friday, said the suspects, aged between 17 and 55, were arrested near Tok Bali Beach in Kelantan. He said the patrol team, led by Maritime Captain Cik Engku Suhaimi Cik Engku Daik in patrol vessel vessel KM Pekan had to take 4 hours to stop the second boat as the suspects refused to cooperate. He added the foreign fishermen also acted aggressively by ramming their boat repeatedly into KM Pekan and performing dangerous maneuvers before it was caught. Nigerian student Thomas Orion's Iwanseha is believed to have died from a seizure while asleep at the immigration detention depot in Bukit Jalil. Immigration Department Director General Datuk Khairul Zaimi Daud said they were still waiting for the final medical report and the post-mortem report to know the actual cause of the student's death. He said an officer on duty was informed that Thomas was having a seizure at around 12:05 a.m. on July 9th, and he was sent to the University Kebangsaan Malaysia Hospital for treatment. Thomas, however, was pronounced dead minutes later. Datuk Khairul said a police report has been lodged by the supervisor and on-duty officer at the Bukit Jalil police station. He also clarified that the deceased's bid to escape had raised doubt on the authenticity of his student pass. He was accused of violating Section 56, subsection 1 of the Immigration Act 1959/63 and was arrested under Section 51, subsection 5B for 14 days to facilitate investigations. Thomas was among 20 people who were arrested during Op Bersepadu conducted at the Desa Amanpuri area on July 4th. Now, preacher Wan Hussein has been allowed a stay of his 1-year jail sentence for making seditious remarks against the Sultan of Selangor. The court on Friday granted the stay after hearing his appeal, but ordered him to surrender his passport to the court and pay a 5,000 ringgit bail. On Wednesday, Pakatan youth leaders had issued a statement calling for his release after he was sentenced, as well as abolish the Sedition Act. Wan was charged in 2014 with making the remarks against Sultan Sharafuddin Idris Shah, as well as other religious issues via his Facebook account. Police detained 3 local men and seized drugs worth 10 million ringgit in 5 raids in the Klang Valley. Bukit Aman Narcotics CID Chief Datuk Kamaruzaman Mamat said during the joint operation with the KL and Selangor NCID, police also raided 2 drug labs. He said the men aged between 30 and 59 have been remanded until July 17th to facilitate investigations under Section 39B of the Dangerous Drugs Act 1952. In Pulau Penang, a senior citizen is facing the music in court, quite literally, for charges of molesting a music teacher early last month. 66-year-old Lam Kok Wai pleaded not guilty at the Bukit Mertajam Magistrates Court after the charges were read to him. Lam is now looking at a maximum of 10 years in jail, caning, or both. He was also allowed bail at 5,000 ringgit with a guarantor. In Port Dickson, Negeri Sembilan, an army retiree was charged with committing physical sexual assault against his 17-year-old adopted daughter last week. The 64-year-old man, however, pleaded not guilty after the charge was read to him before Judge Junaidah Muhammad Isa. For the offence, the accused was charged under Section 14, subsection A of the Sex Offences Act Against Children 2017, which provides a jail term of up to 20 years and whipping upon conviction. The court granted bail of 8,000 ringgit and set August 19th for a mention of the case. Two bikes with 2 different purposes. The Nightline's auto segment when we return. Welcome back to Nightline with the auto segment. Now, 2 bikes with 2 different purposes. One focuses on conquering off-roads, while the other is built to excite speed enthusiasts. Wanizul Islam, who had the chance to witness the launch of both bikes, has the details.
Hello and welcome to this week's segment on Auto with your host, Wanizul Islam. Now for this week, we'll be reviewing the latest addition to Moto Guzzi, the V85TT. It's the first of its class classic enduro segment bike that has not only great versatility but also power, comfort and handling. Let's go find out more. Motor Guzzi Malaysia officially launched the V85TT at Rimba Valley Motor Camp in Janda Bai, Pahang. Introduced as their first ever classic enduro motorcycle, the versatile bike offered riders the option of both off-road trail riding and on-road city travelling. Motor Guzzi, looking towards a new direction with the V85TT, takes on the traditional transverse V-twin engine used in previous Guzzis and creating an all-new unit for adventure touring purposes. With an engine capacity of 853cc, the V85TT produces around 80 horsepower at 7,750 RPM with 80 Nm of torque at 5,000 RPM. Another unique feature for the V85TT is that it is the only bike in its segment to use shaft drive transmission, prioritized over chain drive. Fuel is carried in a 23-litre tank, which is good for 400 kilometers of travel that can easily bring you to any of Malaysia's neighboring countries.
So this bike with its large tank capacity would be able to give you that mileage, that miles to go, all right? And the height, the ability to take the corners with enough horsepower, up to 100 horsepower, will be able to drive, will be able to give you that distance, all right, with comfort, agility, and capability.
The V85TT also offers superior braking quality, comprising of a double 320mm steel front disc with two radial-mounted Brembo calipers on 4 opposed pistons, while the rear stacks a 260mm steel floating caliper with 2 pistons, controlled by a multi-map Continental ABS system that can be disabled for the more demanding off-road stretches.
In the enduro adventure bike sector, many of them lean either more towards on-road or towards off-road. And the difference with the V85TT is that it's very much down the middle. It's an extremely balanced bike. It'll appeal to a wide breadth of riders, and those who are familiar with off-roading and on-roading will both feel almost instantly comfortable.
The bike offers 3 ride modes: road, rain and off-road, which switches off ABS at the rear wheel and allows for greater engine braking. We put the motorcycles through its paces off-road in the valleys of Janda Bai to experiment on the versatility of the braking system and suspension. So this is the latest classic enduro bike launched by Motor Guzzi here in Malaysia recently. So we just, before this, was on the trail to test out how the bike fares off-road. Now for the final test, crossing the river. Let's do this. Now that's what you call versatility on and off the road. And barely a week later, Malaysian distributor DD Resources Sdn Berhad also launched another interesting superbike, the 2019 Aprilia RSV4 1100 Factory. The new member of the Italian brand family is powered by a 1078cc V4 engine, which drops out 217 horsepower at 13,200 RPM, along with a peak torque of 122 Newton meters at 11,000 RPM. The engine is coupled with a 6-speed gearbox along with a slipper clutch. Fed by 4 Morelli 48mm diameter throttle bodies with 2 injectors per cylinder and controlled by ride-by-wire, the RSV4 1100 Factory uses dynamic air intakes to optimize intake air volume and velocity for best power. braking is done with Brembo's Dilemma 4-piston monoblock radial calipers and radial master cylinders, clamping double stainless steel 330mm discs mounted on lightweight steel rotors. The superbike also well equipped with a race-ready titanium full system made for Aprilia by Akropovic, with its bodywork a mix of carbon fiber and high-impact plastic with the addition of winglets on the fairing in carbon fiber. The price? 159,900 ringgit.
SV4 is a very niche market for racer, somebody that really take pushing speeds to the limit. So it's something that I will see that somebody really, really passionate about speeds, and this will be definitely one of the most powerful, most ready for track road bike for anybody that category.
One is Islam for Nightline's auto segment, TV3.
At least 6 dead in suicide blast at Afghan wedding. Details after this break. In Sudan, 16 people were arrested as the nation's ruling military council foiled an attempted coup aimed at blocking a power-sharing deal with opposition groups. According to head of the Transitional Military Council, General Jamal Omar Ibrahim, the thwarted coup involved a number of retired officers as well as officers still in service. Omar said security forces are now pursuing the mastermind of the attempted coup. The announcement came as the generals and protest leaders went through the details of the agreement at a luxury hotel in the capital, Khartoum. Sudan has been in political deadlock since the overthrow by the military of autocratic President Omar al-Bashir in April. Action from the Super League after this. Stay tuned. Sports football, the Super League. Pahang's hopes of sealing a second-place finish came to a halt as they drew 2-2 with Terengganu on Friday night. Both teams proved a tough nut to crack, but not until the 42nd minute when Shamim Yahya struck the opening goal to give Terengganu the 1-0 lead. However, Pahang levelled matters 6 minutes after the break, thanks to a strike by Muhammadu Sumare. Both teams then pushed on for the winner, but the score remained 1-1 till the full-time whistle. Pahang remained second in the standings with 37 points, while Terengganu was in 7th place with 29 points. The Prime Minister's wife, Tun Dr. Siti Hasmah Muhammad Ali, celebrated her 93rd birthday on Friday by playing violin for a good cause at the Yayasan University Multimedia YUM Charity High Tea. She wowed the audience with her rendition of Secret Garden, The Things You Are to Me, Gubahanku and Terkenang-Kenang in her 15-minute performance. Take a look as we wrap up Nightline this time around. I'm Azaria Tagaya. Thank you for watching and stay safe.